My stepson said, "You buy love because no one actually likes you." So I stopped paying, and love disappeared right on schedule. Don't forget to subscribe and share your experiences below. Let's get started. I was 43 when I married Emily. Not young, not old. Just worn in enough to think love was supposed to hurt a little. She had 2 sons. Ryan was 9, Connor 7. When I asked her once about their father, she said, "He's around sometimes." That should have been my first warning. He wasn't around. He was a postcard of a man. Showed up every few months with just enough charm to pass for interested. Handed the boys a pair of gift cards or some story about how work had kept him away. Then vanished back into wherever men like him go, the shadows between obligation and consequence. He never paid child support on time, never stayed for birthdays, never called unless someone reminded him to. I didn't come to replace him. I wasn't trying to be their new dad. I just wanted to matter, so I stepped in. First, it felt good, necessary, like patching a roof before the storm hits. They needed structure, rides to school, help with homework, someone to show up on time for the parent-teacher conferences. I gave them that. I gave them everything. I thought I could rebuild something from the broken pieces he left behind. We bought a house together in Denver, 2-story colonial, big windows, bigger mortgage. Everything in my name. The deed, the loan, the tax bills. I paid off Emily's car, traded mine in for something with 3rd-row seating. The furniture, the fridge, the damn Wi-Fi router, mine. The phones they scrolled through at the dinner table, mine. Every charger, every cracked screen, every replacement. I gave freely. Not because they asked, but because I believed love was supposed to prove itself. I never brought it up. Not once. I thought, better to earn their respect quietly than to demand it out loud. We built routines. Sunday pancakes, school night dinners, 1 movie night a week no matter how tired I was. I paid for family vacations, Myrtle Beach, Yosemite, even 1 wild trip to Tokyo when Ryan turned 12. It drained my account, but I didn't care. I told myself I was investing in memories, in loyalty, in something that might one day feel like home from both directions. When Ryan wanted to try boxing, I bought him gloves and pads and took him to the gym twice a week. When Connor showed an interest in coding, I bought him a laptop, even enrolled him in a weekend workshop. I sat in the back row, bored out of my mind, just so he'd know someone was paying attention. I remember one night Connor got sick, stomach bug, came out of nowhere. Emily was working late, and I sat with him on the bathroom floor for hours, rubbing his back while he puked into a bucket. I didn't flinch, didn't leave. I was there when his real father wasn't. That was the story of my life. The man they shared blood with was a ghost, drifting in and out of focus, always just blurry enough to be forgiven. And me? I was the silhouette filling his absence. Solid, present, overlooked. Emily thanked me sometimes. Little things. A kiss on the cheek, a soft "you didn't have to," after I paid the heating bill. But she never demanded that the boys treat me as their father. She never corrected them when they called me Mark instead of Dad. She said, "It'll come in time." Time passed. It didn't come. There were moments when I thought we were close. Ryan once asked me how to shave. I stood behind him at the mirror, showed him the angle, told him not to press too hard. He nodded, barely looked at me, but I held on to that moment like it meant something, like it was a turning point. But the next week, he introduced me to his friend as my mom's husband. Not stepdad, not Mark, just a placeholder. Connor was quieter, more careful. I thought maybe that meant he respected me. But as he got older, he pulled back too. Spent more time in his room, headphones on, answering in grunts. I chalked it up to adolescence. Mood swings, growing pains. But deep down, I felt the edges sharpening. I tried not to take it personally. That's what Emily would say. "Don't take it personally, Mark. They're just kids." But I wasn't raising just kids. I was raising someone else's legacy while erasing my own. I started keeping receipts. Not to throw in anyone's face. Just to remind myself it was real. A man needs to see the evidence sometimes. Tuition payments. Grocery bills. The hospital copay when Ryan broke his wrist skateboarding. the Uber receipts from late-night pickups. I printed them out, tucked them into a file folder labeled family. All caps, like I was daring the universe to contradict me. 8 years passed. 8 Christmases. 8 school years. 8 first days and last days and missed birthdays from their real father. 8 years of believing that showing up would eventually outweigh biology. 8 years of paying and waiting and being told I'm not quite dad, but still expected to carry all the weight. Every room in that house had my fingerprints on it. I installed the ceiling fans, regrouted the bathroom tiles when they started to mold, replaced the dishwasher, painted the boys' bedrooms twice. I gave up my workshop to convert it into a gaming room because Ryan said, "There's nowhere in this house that feels like ours." I didn't argue. I just moved my tools into the garage and smiled while he plugged in his Xbox. Do you know what that feels like? To erase parts of yourself to give someone else room, only to be told you don't belong? It didn't start as resentment. Not then. It started as confusion, then doubt, then the slow, creeping chill of being taken for granted. It builds, quietly, like rot beneath floorboards. I remember sitting at the dinner table one night, listening to Ryan talk about some expensive hoodie he wanted. Connor was scrolling through his phone. Emily was refilling everyone's glasses, and I just sat there, invisible in the home I built. That night, I stayed up late balancing the checkbook. The hoodie Ryan wanted cost more than our weekly groceries, but I knew I'd probably buy it anyway, because that's what I did. I bought affection even when I didn't call it that. I didn't want gratitude. I didn't want applause. I just wanted a seat at the table where I wasn't a stranger. But there was always this wall. Unspoken, unmovable. I wasn't their father. Not really. Just a man in the background. The bank account that smiled and grilled burgers and pretended it didn't hurt when they left for school without saying goodbye. And Emily, she let it be that way. Her silence carved the gap wider every year. Still I stayed. Still I paid. Still I believed. Because what else could I do? I'd built my identity on the belief that love didn't need a blood test. That it was enough to be present. That if I gave enough, endured enough, smiled enough, I'd eventually earn my place. That's the lie men like me tell ourselves. That sacrifice equals acceptance. But the truth? The truth is colder. The truth is that some people will take everything you offer and still look past you when they say family. Tell me something. If your name is on the mortgage, if your paycheck feeds the house, if your hands built the home, but no one calls you dad, what are you? Because I don't know anymore. It didn't break overnight. It started in whispers, little slights. Ryan forgetting to say thank you after I fixed the radiator in his car. Connor rolling his eyes when I asked him to mow the lawn. Emily brushing it off like I was imagining things. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that distance was just part of adolescence. That boys pull away, test boundaries, act cold before they understand warmth. I told myself I had to push through it, like every other storm we'd weathered. But this wasn't weather. This was erosion. Ryan turned 17 that spring. Broad shoulders, deeper voice, and a sharp tongue that could draw blood. He stopped looking at me when I spoke to him, like eye contact was beneath him. He'd answer in monosyllables or not at all. His phone was always between us, a wall of glass and light. Connor, 15, became a ghost. Silent, withdrawn. The boy who used to sit on my lap during movie night now locked his bedroom door and pretended not to hear when I knocked. He mumbled apologies when pressed, but they felt rehearsed. Polite enough to avoid consequence, never sincere enough to bridge the gap. I tried not to flinch. I kept doing the little things, replacing light bulbs, filling the fridge, checking tire pressure. I kept showing up, thinking that consistency would win them over, that they'd come around. But slowly, they were drifting into a world where I didn't exist. The real shift came on a Tuesday night. It was late. The house was quiet. Emily was in the bath, Connor in his room, Ryan in the basement. I went downstairs to shut off the lights and heard them talking. Ryan and Connor, voices low, too low, laughing like they were trading secrets. I should have turned around. Should have walked back up and given them privacy. But something in their tone stopped me. So I waited and listened. Dude, Ryan was saying, "He's so pathetic. Buys all this crap just to be liked." Connor snorted. "It's like he's scared we won't love him unless he pays for everything." Ryan laughed. "Yeah. Please love me, here's a new PS5. Loser." They both laughed. Not nervous laughter. Not accidental. It was cruel. Confident. The kind of laughter boys learn from movies where the stepfather's always a joke. It wasn't just mocking. It was exposure. A dissection of everything I'd tried to be. I stood there, outside the door, holding the light switch like it was the only thing keeping me upright. My mouth went dry. My body didn't move. "He's just afraid no one would love him without us." That sentence stayed in the air like smoke. It didn't burn right away. It just hung there, thick, numb. I stood there long enough to feel my heart slow down, like it was retreating from my chest. I didn't say anything. I didn't confront them. I walked back upstairs like I hadn't heard a thing. Emily was still in the bath when I sat down at the kitchen table. I pulled out the folder. The one with the receipts, the payments, the forgotten evidence of a man trying to matter. Braces, baseball equipment, a prepaid debit card refilled every week like clockwork. I stared at the numbers, the balance in our joint account, the automatic payments scheduled for the next month, tuition deposits, allowances, subscription fees, and I realized, with a clarity so sharp it made my hands tremble. They didn't see me as a father. They saw me as a transaction, a walking, breathing, bleeding ATM with a gritted smile and no boundaries. And Emily, she never corrected it. Never demanded they respect me. She played neutral. She let the poison spread, hoping I'd be too proud to notice the taste in my own mouth. She told me once, "Don't be so sensitive, Mark. They're just boys." No, they were men in training. And she let them train on me. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark with the lights off, listening to the creaks of the house I paid for, each one a reminder that I didn't belong in the very home I built. The next morning, Emily asked if something was wrong. I said no. I smiled, made coffee, kissed her on the cheek. But inside, the ground had shifted. A decision had started forming in the back of my skull. Slow, silent, surgical. Not revenge. Not anger. Clarity. Over the next week, I paid attention. Closer than ever before. I watched how Ryan would ask Emily for permission to go out, even if I was the one holding the car keys. I watched how Connor would hand his empty plate to her instead of thanking me for dinner. I listened to Emily when she said, "Come on, boys, listen to Mark." Like I was a substitute teacher whose voice meant nothing unless repeated by their real parent. I was a background character in my own life, a shadow they stepped around. One night, Ryan asked me for gas money. Just like always, casual, entitled, like it was a vending machine transaction. I reached into my wallet, handed him a $20. And he didn't say thank you. He just walked out the door. That was the last time I gave without question. I sat down at the kitchen table again, same spot, opened the laptop, pulled up the accounts. I didn't click anything yet, just stared at the balances, the auto-pay schedules, the college fund transfer dates. I imagined what it would look like, what their lives would feel like if the faucet stopped, if the invisible man turned off the machine. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Control. Emily walked in. "What are you looking at?" "Just bills," I said. She smiled, kissed my head. "Thank you for handling it all. You're so good to us." I didn't answer, because I wasn't good to me. 2 days later, Connor left a mess in the living room. Socks on the couch, a Gatorade bottle leaking onto the rug. I told him to clean it up. He didn't look at me, just yelled upstairs, "Mom, do I have to?" She walked in, glanced at the mess, then looked at me. "Connor," she said gently, "listen to Mark." That was it. That was the moment. Her tone wasn't firm. It wasn't supportive. It was reluctant, soft, like she didn't want to offend the prince. Like I was a guest complaining about the hotel service in a kingdom I didn't own. And in that second, the final thread snapped. The decision I had been building in silence became real. That night, I made a list, not of what I owed them, of what they owed me. And it was longer than any receipt. Years of gas, groceries, missed vacations, late nights, broken sleep, fixed cars, birthday cakes, streaming subscriptions, blood tests, forgotten thank yous, invisible dinners, doors closed in my face, and silence when they should have spoken up. All because I thought love was enough. But love without respect is exploitation. And I'd been exploited in my own house. You ever sit in your living room and feel like a squatter in the life you paid for? I did. And when you reach that point, when every dollar feels like it's feeding a machine that chews you up in return, you either double down and keep dying slowly, or you flip the switch. So I did. But I didn't tell them yet. Not yet. I wanted them to feel the wind shift before the storm arrived. And when it came, they'd know exactly what they'd lost. Because for the first time in 8 years, I was going to let them live without the ghost they depended on. And see how long they lasted without me. Morning came like any other, but something in me had gone quiet. That dangerous, heavy kind of quiet that comes right before the world shifts. The coffee pot hissed, the house smelled of burnt toast, and Emily hummed along to a song I didn't recognize. Ryan and Connor argued upstairs about whose turn it was to drive to school. Same chaos, same rhythm. Except this time, I didn't feel part of it. I was watching a film I'd already seen too many times. While they bickered, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. The cursor blinked like a pulse. Every tab I opened was a door I'd built for them. Insurance, tuition, phone plans, autopay for groceries, streaming services, gas cards, utilities. Each one tied to me. Each one a line of credit, invisible and taken for granted. A family web spun from my labor. I started cutting threads. First the automatic payments. Cancel. Suspend. Terminate. One by one the confirmations came through. Polite blue banners thanking me for updating my preferences. My preferences. If only they knew what that really meant. Then the family insurance. Then the joint account. I drained it, left just enough for Emily to see a number and think nothing had changed, at least for a day or two. The last thing I did was close the college fund. Ryan's future, gone in 3 clicks. 8 years of deposits evaporating into a private savings account under my name. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. It was surgical, precise, calm. The calm that only arrives when you finally understand what you're worth. When Emily came downstairs, she noticed the stillness. "You okay?" she asked. "I stopped buying love," I said. She laughed softly, assuming it was a joke. "What does that even mean?" "You'll see." First, no one did. Life carried on. The boys left for school, Emily went to work, and I drove to the office like always. But by evening, the cracks began to hum. The Wi-Fi blinked out mid-movie. Connor blamed Ryan. Ryan blamed the router. Emily blamed the storm. I said nothing. 2 days later, her card got declined at the grocery store. Then Ryan's phone plan shut down. They called the bank. The bank said there'd been account adjustments. They asked me about it and I only smiled. "Maybe the system's catching up," I said. It took 4 days for the panic to surface. Emily stood in the doorway of my study, holding a stack of unpaid bills. Her voice trembled. "Mark, what's going on? None of our payments are going through. Did something happen?" I looked up from the ledger I was pretending to review. Nothing happened. I just stopped paying for people who think I'm replaceable. She blinked. "What are you talking about?" "I canceled everything. The house, the cars, the tuition, the phones. All of it. You wanted independence, now you have it." Her face went pale. "You can't just mark the boys, they rely on this." "They rely on me, and that's the problem." She took a step closer. "This isn't you. You're angry, you're hurt. I get it, but you can't punish them." "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm teaching them what it means when the invisible hand stops holding the roof up." Her voice sharpened. "You think this will make them respect you?" "No," I said. "It'll make them remember who paid for their laughter." That night, the phone started ringing. First Emily, then Ryan, then Connor. Missed calls, voicemails, messages sliding across the screen like confessions. "Ryan, sorry. We went too far." Connor. "We didn't realize how much you did." Emily. "Mark, please. You made your point, but they hadn't understood anything yet. Not really. Regret is easy when the lights go out. Respect takes longer. By the end of the week, the house was unraveling. The car payments bounced. Insurance expired. Ryan's college sent an email about a financial hold. Connor's school called about a late tuition transfer. Emily's eyes had dark circles now, her voice thinner, stretched by the weight of bills and pride. She tried to negotiate. Maybe just the essentials, she said. We'll pay you back. The boys will apologize. Apologies don't pay mortgages, I said. And promises don't erase contempt. I moved out of the master bedroom that night, into the guest room at the end of the hall. No fight, no announcement, just distance. I folded my clothes neatly, took my keys, my tools, my ledger, and left the framed photos on the dresser. The smiles in them felt counterfeit now. Family portraits built on borrowed affection. The next morning, Emily found me in the garage, packing boxes. Where are you going? She asked. Nowhere yet, I said. Just preparing in case I finally do. She started crying then. Real tears, not manipulation. But I couldn't comfort her. There's a kind of grief that looks like love but isn't, the grief of losing convenience. I'd mistaken it for devotion for too long. By the second week, the begging turned desperate. Connor's voice cracked over the phone. Please, Mark, just turn the Wi-Fi back on. We can't even do our homework. Ryan followed. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean what I said. Your family. Family. The word hit different when it came with hunger. I didn't respond. I wanted them to live in that silence, to feel the echo of every time they'd ignored me at dinner, every time they'd laughed behind my back. Emily came to my office on Friday evening. She didn't knock. She just stood in the doorway, her hands trembling. We can't live like this. You proved your point. What now? I closed the laptop. Now you decide what family means. Because if it's just blood, then I'm free. But if it's respect, then maybe there's something left to salvage. She didn't answer. Maybe because she didn't know. Maybe because she finally did. I left the next morning. I didn't pack everything. Just enough to start over somewhere else. A few clothes, a folder of documents, a half-empty bottle of whiskey. I drove until Denver disappeared in the rearview mirror, until the mountains swallowed the skyline. Checked into a small motel off I-70, where no one knew my name and the silence was mine again. For a few days, I waited for the guilt to come. Didn't. What came instead was peace. The kind that hums low and steady in the bones. The sound of absence finally earning its own value. On the fifth day, an envelope arrived at the motel. No return address, just my name in Emily's handwriting. Inside was a note. You were right. We forgot who kept the house standing. We remember now. There was also a photo, the four of us, taken on that first vacation to Myrtle Beach. The boys were smiling. Emily's head was on my shoulder. I looked at it for a long time, searching for the truth inside those printed lies. Then I folded it once, slid it back into the envelope, and put it away. Later, I stood outside the motel watching the sunset bleed across the highway. Cars passed like ghosts. The wind smelled like dust and gasoline. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a stranger in my own life. I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd simply stopped financing the illusion. Sometimes you have to break a family to show it what it's made of. They thought love was a credit line. I closed the account. And now they finally know the balance due. 30 days passed. Long enough for the lights to flicker, the fridge to empty, the tuition reminders to turn from warnings into threats. Long enough for them to feel the hollow spaces I used to fill. My name was off everything, the house, the payments, the future. I watched from a distance, checking balances, emails, voicemails that piled up and remained unopened. Their panic had quieted now, turned inward. Good. Panic turns to clarity if it's allowed to burn long enough. The motel room I lived in was small. A bed, a desk, a narrow window that looked out at nothing. But it was clean, quiet, honest. No teenage silence weaponized against me. No forced dinners where I paid the bill and still got left out of the conversation. Just my thoughts. My own breathing. My own space. I didn't expect Emily to show up. Not after everything. I thought she'd keep calling, texting, hoping to wear me down from a distance. But then, one Saturday evening, the motel door knocked twice. I opened it and there she was. Not crying. Not dressed for pity. No makeup. No perfume. Just a woman stripped bare of excuses. I stepped aside. She sat at the edge of the bed like she didn't know whether she belonged there. Maybe she didn't. We didn't say anything for a while. The fan clicked above us like a metronome for a confession that hadn't started yet. Then she spoke. You were right. It was quiet, flat, but not empty. Her voice had weight now, like each word cost her something to lift. I let it happen, she said. I let them treat you like a stranger while you gave them everything. I didn't respond. Not yet. I should have stopped them. Should have corrected it every time they disrespected you. But I didn't. I thought if I just kept the peace long enough, it would work itself out. I looked at her. And did it? She didn't answer. Just stared at her hands. I watched them fall apart this month, she said. Ryan's college suspended him. Connor's school sent a notice, tuition overdue. The Wi-Fi's gone. No car insurance. No food delivery. No gas money. Ryan said he felt like he was drowning. Connor barely leaves his room. I almost laughed. Drowning was new to them. They'd spent years floating on me. I told them, she went on. I told them I failed you. That we all did. And they cried, Mark. They actually cried. I said nothing. I'm not asking you to come back, she added. I know we don't get to ask for that. I just wanted you to hear it. To know we finally saw it. Saw you. There it was. Not a plea. Not a negotiation. Just the ghost of an apology. I leaned back in the chair, exhaling for the first time in days. You let me die in that house, I said. She flinched. Every day, I continued. I showed up, paid the bills, carried the weight, and you let them pretend I didn't exist. I know, she whispered. You let them treat me like a substitute, a stand-in, a man warming a seat for someone who never came. I know. And then when I stopped playing along, you called me cruel. Silence. Then she said, we got comfortable with your sacrifice. Thought it would never end. That part, at least, was honest. I rubbed my face, the beard thicker now, untrimmed. I looked older than I remembered. Worn. Not broken, but changed. You think they learned anything? I asked. She shrugged. Connor barely talks. Ryan asked me if there's a way to undo it. There isn't. I know. We sat in silence again. I thought about all the times I'd stared at that kitchen table, waiting for someone to meet me halfway. Thought about every sock I picked up, every car repair, every dinner grilled in silence. I'll talk, I said finally, but only if one rule's clear. Okay. No more love bought with money. No more expectations tied to my paycheck. No more showing up just because no one else will. Her eyes welled, but she nodded. They want to call me family, I continued. They start with respect. Not blood, not biology. Respect. They understand now, she said softly. Understanding isn't enough, I replied. It has to cost them something. Later that evening, I returned to the house. Not to stay. Not yet. Just to eat dinner. It was strange walking through that door again. Like stepping into a place where you once bled out, only to find the stains scrubbed clean. Ryan stood in the hallway, shoulders down, eyes low. Hey, he muttered. Connor was at the table, hands folded, like he was preparing for a funeral. Dinner was quiet. No phones. No music. Just the sound of plates, forks, and the kind of silence that only comes from guilt. No one talked for a while. Then Ryan cleared his throat. I'm sorry. I didn't look at him. I just kept eating. I was a jerk, he added. I didn't see what you did for us. For me. I thought it didn't matter because... He trailed off. Because I'm not your real dad. I finished for him. He swallowed. Yeah. You think real dads show up only on holidays? I asked. You think real dads vanish when things get hard? No, he said. I didn't think. That's the problem. Connor spoke next. I didn't mean what I said either. You didn't say anything, I reminded him. That was the issue. He looked at me, eyes red. You're right. Emily sat quietly, watching it unfold like someone afraid to touch a healing wound. I'm not mad anymore, I said. But I'm not the same. They all nodded. I'm not paying for your silence again, or your contempt, or your indifference. You want a relationship? You build it. Ryan nodded. We will. Connor said nothing, just looked down. After dinner, I stood by the door, keys in hand. Emily followed me out. Will you come back? She asked. Maybe. When? When it feels like home again. And I left. Not in anger, not in haste, just quiet, clean. In the weeks that followed, things changed. Slowly. I didn't rush back. I let them sit in the discomfort, let them pay their own way, let them learn how to carry the weight I once bore alone. Ryan took a job. Connor started cooking. Emily began speaking up, correcting disrespect as soon as it surfaced. Bit by bit, the house remembered what it was built on. Not just money, but effort, presence, respect. One night, Ryan sent a text. If you ever do come back, can we start over? I didn't respond. Not yet. Because forgiveness isn't a gift. It's earned. And for the first time in 8 years, I wasn't rushing to prove my worth. They were finally earning theirs. So tell me, if it were you, after years of silence, rejection, and being used as nothing more than a walking bank account, would you have stayed? Would you have continued to pay for your own humiliation? Or would you have walked away like I did, and made them remember what life feels like without the man they never wanted to admit they needed? Tell me, was I wrong?